billionaire CEO's brutal revenge, how she destroyed her cheating fiancé and backstabbing business partner. Amelia Hart's hands trembled as she stared at the screen of her phone. The message glowed in the darkness of her bedroom, each word a dagger to her heart. Your husband isn't working late. He's with me. He's been with me for 6 months. Thought you should know. V. Welcome to my channel, Rose and Retribution. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Attached was a photo, her husband Marcus, laughing, his arm wrapped around a stunning woman with raven black hair and crimson lips. They were at Rossi's, the Italian restaurant where Marcus had proposed to Amelia 3 years ago, the same restaurant he claimed was too expensive when she'd suggested going there for their anniversary last month. Amelia's breath caught in her throat. Her vision blurred. The phone slipped from her fingers onto the silk sheets she'd bought to surprise him, sheets he barely noticed anymore. It was 11:47 p.m. Marcus had texted 2 hours ago. Big client dinner running late. Don't wait up, babe. Lies. All lies. The perfect marriage was a perfect lie. Amelia had spent 5 years building what she thought was an unshakable life. She'd met Marcus Hart at a charity gala. He was charming, ambitious, a rising star in commercial real estate. He'd swept her off her feet with romantic gestures, handwritten notes, and promises of forever. She'd supported him through everything. When his business struggled, she dipped into her inheritance to keep his company afloat. When his mother fell ill, Amelia had been the one sitting in hospital rooms, holding the woman's hand, while Marcus took important calls in the hallway. She'd given up her dreams of opening an art gallery to be the perfect wife. She'd hosted dinner parties for his clients, smiled through condescending comments from his colleagues, and ignored the growing distance between them. And now this. Amelia picked up her phone with shaking hands. She zoomed in on the photo. The woman, V, was breathtaking. Everything Amelia wasn't. Confident, glamorous, young. A second message appeared. He tells me he's leaving you. Says you're boring. Says you've let yourself go. Just thought you deserved the truth. V. The words felt like acid poured directly into her soul. Confirmation cuts deeper than suspicion. Amelia's mind raced backward through the past 6 months. The late nights. The business trips to cities he'd never talked about before. The way he flinched when she touched him. The password he'd changed on his phone. She'd noticed. Of course she'd noticed. But she'd told herself she was being paranoid, insecure. She'd blamed herself for not being interesting enough, sexy enough, worthy enough of his attention. Now she knew the truth. It wasn't her fault. It was his choice. She stood up, pacing the bedroom of their 5-bedroom house in Riverside Heights, the house she'd helped him buy, the house where she'd imagined raising children, growing old together. Her reflection caught in the full-length mirror. She barely recognized herself. When had she become this woman? Her chestnut hair, once vibrant and styled, hung limply around her shoulders. Her hazel eyes, once bright with dreams, looked hollow. She wore an oversized t-shirt and yoga pants, the uniform of the forgotten wife. You've let yourself go. The words echoed in her mind. She wanted to scream. She wanted to throw something. Instead, she picked up her phone and called Marcus. It rang 4 times before he answered, the phone call that changed everything. Amelia? What's wrong? Is everything okay? His voice sounded rushed, distracted. Where are you? She asked quietly. I told you, client dinner. We're just wrapping up. Why? The lie came so easily to him, so smoothly, Marcus, she said, her voice breaking despite her efforts to stay strong. I know. A pause. Too long. Too guilty. Know what? I know about her. About Vanessa. The silence on the other end was deafening. She could hear music in the background. Laughter. The clink of glasses. Not a business dinner. A date. Amelia, listen. Don't. Her voice turned cold. Just don't. How long has this been going on? Another pause. Then, to her shock, she heard him sigh, not with regret, but with what sounded like relief. 6 months, he admitted. Look, I was going to tell you, I didn't know how. You were going to tell me? Amelia's voice rose. When, Marcus? When were you going to tell me you've been sleeping with another woman for half a year? Before or after you made me feel crazy for suspecting something was wrong? This isn't the time to have this conversation, he said, his tone shifting to irritation. I'll come home tomorrow and we'll talk like adults. Like adults? Amelia laughed bitterly. You've been lying to me for 6 months and you want to talk like adults? You're being dramatic, Amelia. This is exactly why. He stopped himself. Why what? She demanded. Say it. This is exactly why you cheated? Because I'm dramatic? Because I care that my husband is betraying me? She heard a woman's voice in the background. Vanessa, asking if everything was okay. Marcus covered the phone, but Amelia heard him anyway. It's fine, babe. Just give me a minute. Babe. He called her babe. The breaking point. Something inside Amelia snapped, not with hysteria, but with crystal clear clarity. Don't come home, she said quietly. What? I said don't come home. Stay with her tonight. Stay with her forever for all I care. But don't come back to this house tonight. Amelia, you're overreacting. I want a divorce. The words came out steady, final. Marcus laughed. Actually laughed. You're upset. We'll talk about this tomorrow when you've calmed down. There's nothing to talk about. You made your choice. Now I'm making mine. She hung up. For a moment, she stood frozen in the center of the bedroom, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might burst through her chest. Then she looked around, at the king-sized bed they'd barely shared in months, at the photos on the wall documenting a happiness that had died long before tonight, at the life she'd built that had crumbled into ash. She walked to the closet and pulled out a suitcase. Her phone buzzed with a new message from Marcus. Don't do anything stupid. We'll figure this out. You're just emotional right now. Emotional. He'd reduced her devastation to a convenient dismissal. Another message from Vanessa appeared. He's mine now. Accept it and move on. Or don't. Either way, you've already lost. The Amelia stared at the message. Vanessa's arrogance. Her cruelty. The way she flaunted stealing another woman's husband as if it were a victory. Something dark unfurled in Amelia's chest. Not despair. Something colder. Sharper. Vanessa thought she'd won. Marcus thought he could discard his wife like yesterday's newspaper and face no consequences. They were both wrong. Amelia opened her laptop and began to search. Within minutes, she'd found Vanessa Crane's social media profiles, her workplace, her entire digital footprint laid bare. Vanessa Crane, 26. Marketing executive at Sterling & Cross, the same firm Marcus had been meeting with for months. Of course. Amelia's fingers flew across the keyboard. She accessed the joint bank accounts she shared with Marcus. She transferred half of everything into a new account in her name only. Then she called her lawyer, Richard Chen, the best divorce attorney in the state. Someone Marcus had ironically recommended to a friend last year. Richard? It's Amelia Hart. I need to file for divorce. Tonight, and I need to make sure my husband doesn't see it coming. The war begins. By the time the sun rose, Amelia had made 3 phone calls, transferred $480,000 into her personal account, and scheduled an appointment with a private investigator. She'd also done something else. She'd created an anonymous email account and sent a message to Sterling and Cross's HR department with photographic evidence of an affair between 2 employees. A clear violation of company policy. She didn't want revenge out of spite. She wanted it because Marcus and Vanessa had bet that she would crumble, that she would accept her role as the discarded wife and fade quietly into the background. They'd forgotten one crucial detail. Amelia Hart had built Marcus's empire with him. She knew where every body was buried, every corner he'd cut, every lie he'd told to clients and investors, and she was done playing the role of the perfect, forgiving wife. As Marcus's key turned in the front door at 7 a.m., Amelia was sitting at the kitchen table, perfectly composed, dressed in a sleek black dress and heels. Her hair was styled, her makeup flawless. She looked like the woman he'd married. But she wasn't that woman anymore. Marcus froze in the doorway, taking in her appearance. Amelia, I'm glad you're ready to talk rationally. Sit down, Marcus, she said quietly. Something in her tone made him obey. She slid an envelope across the table. Divorce papers. I've already signed. You'll sign too, or I'll make this very, very difficult for you. His face went pale. You can't be serious. I'm deadly serious. She leaned forward. You wanted out of this marriage. Congratulations. You're free. But you're not walking away with everything. I've frozen the joint accounts, contacted our accountant, and hired the best divorce lawyer in the state. You can't do that. I already did. She stood. And Marcus? There's one more thing. What? She smiled. A cold, beautiful smile that didn't reach her eyes. You have no idea what's coming. Heartbreak and revenge. The unraveling. Marcus Hart thought he knew his wife. He thought Amelia was predictable, soft, forgiving, too emotionally dependent to truly fight back. He thought wrong. Within 72 hours of that kitchen confrontation, his world began to disintegrate. It started with a phone call from his business partner, Gerald Winters. Marcus, what the hell is going on? Gerald's voice was sharp with panic. I just got a call from First National Bank. They're demanding we provide documentation for the Riverside project loan. They're talking about an audit. Did you do something? Marcus's stomach dropped. An audit? Why? Someone filed an anonymous complaint alleging financial irregularities. They're questioning whether we misrepresented our assets to secure the loan. Marcus's hand tightened around his phone. The Riverside project, a luxury condo development, was the cornerstone of Hart Realty's expansion. If the bank pulled their funding, the entire project would collapse. And if they found the creative accounting Marcus had employed to inflate their assets? Gerald, listen, I can explain. You'd better explain it to the bank investigators. They want to meet next week. And Marcus? Gerald's voice hardened. If you've done something that puts this company at risk, you're on your own. The call ended. Marcus stood in his temporary apartment, a sterile corporate rental he'd been forced to take after Amelia changed the locks on their house and felt the first tremor of real fear. Amelia couldn't have done this. Could she? Vanessa's betrayal. That evening, Marcus arrived at Vanessa's apartment with Chinese takeout and a bottle of wine, desperate for comfort. Instead, He found her pacing like a caged animal, her phone clutched in her white-knuckled hand. "You need to fix this," she hissed the moment he walked in. "Fix what?" "I got fired, Marcus. Fired. Someone sent HR evidence of our relationship, photos, emails, everything. They called it a conflict of interest and terminated me effective immediately." Marcus felt ice in his veins. "What photos?" "Us. At restaurants, at my apartment building, in your car. Someone's been following us." Vanessa's eyes blazed with fury. "This is your wife, isn't it? Your pathetic, scorned little wife?" Amelia wouldn't. Wouldn't what? Wouldn't fight back? You told me she was weak. You told me she'd just cry and accept it. Vanessa threw her phone onto the couch. "I've lost my job, Marcus. Do you understand? My career is ruined. All because you couldn't keep your marriage together before starting something with me." Marcus reached for her. "Vanessa, we'll figure this out. I'll hire you at Heart Realty." She slapped his hand away. "I don't want your pity job. I want this fixed." Her eyes narrowed. "Maybe we should have waited. Maybe you should have actually divorced her before we." "Are you saying this is my fault?" "I'm saying your wife is crazier than you led me to believe." Vanessa crossed her arms. "And honestly, Marcus, I'm starting to wonder if you're worth all this trouble." The words hit him like a slap. "You're serious? After everything, I'm unemployed, humiliated, and stuck with a man who's in the middle of a messy divorce and possibly a financial scandal." She picked up her phone. "Maybe you should leave." "Vanessa, leave." "Marcus." He left, standing in the hallway of her building, the bag of Chinese food still in his hand, and realized with horrible clarity he'd lost everything and he had nothing to show for it. Amelia's transformation. While Marcus's life crumbled, Amelia was rebuilding hers. She'd moved into a sleek downtown loft, paid for entirely with her half of their assets, and hired a stylist, a personal trainer, and a therapist. Not to change for someone else, but to reclaim the woman she'd lost in the shadow of her marriage. Her days followed a new rhythm: morning runs along the waterfront, afternoons at art galleries, reconnecting with the passion she'd abandoned, evenings learning everything she could about Marcus's business vulnerabilities. Because revenge, Amelia had discovered, wasn't about screaming or drama. It was about precision. The private investigator she'd hired, a former FBI agent named Sandra Ortiz, had provided her with a detailed dossier of Marcus's business dealings. And what she'd found was damning. Marcus had been inflating property values, misrepresenting financial projections, and funneling investor money into personal accounts. It wasn't just unethical. It was illegal. Sandra sat across from Amelia in a coffee shop, sliding a thick folder across the table. "If you release this to the SEC, Heart Realty will face federal charges. Marcus could go to prison." Amelia opened the folder, scanning the documents. Her hands didn't shake anymore. "What about the investors? Will they lose money?" "Most of them, yes. Unless someone steps in to restructure the company." "Someone like me?" Sandra raised an eyebrow. "You're thinking of taking over his company?" "I helped build it." Amelia closed the folder. "Why shouldn't I be the one to save it?" The confrontation at the gala. 2 weeks later, Marcus received an invitation to the annual Riverside Business Association Gala, an event he'd attended for years, rubbing elbows with investors and city officials. He almost didn't go. His life was in shambles. The bank was breathing down his neck. Vanessa had stopped returning his calls. His business partner was threatening to dissolve their partnership, but pride and desperation drove him to attend. He needed to do damage control to reassure investors that everything was fine. He arrived alone, scanning the ballroom for familiar faces. And then he saw her, Amelia. She stood near the center of the room wearing a stunning emerald gown that hugged her figure. Her hair was swept up elegantly, her posture confident. She was laughing at something a distinguished older man was saying, Richard Chen, her attorney. Marcus realized with a jolt. But it wasn't just Richard. Amelia was surrounded by people, investors Marcus recognized, city council members, business leaders. She looked radiant, powerful, nothing like the broken woman he'd left behind. Marcus approached, his heart pounding. Amelia. She turned, her smile cooling slightly. Marcus, I didn't expect to see you here. I could say the same. His eyes swept over her. You look different. I feel different. She sipped her champagne. Freedom has that effect. Richard Chen excused himself politely, but Marcus noticed the protective way the man glanced at Amelia before leaving. Can we talk? Marcus asked quietly. Privately? Amelia considered this. 5 minutes. They moved to a quiet corner of the terrace overlooking the city. The truth comes out. I'm sorry, Marcus said, the words tumbling out. I know I hurt you. I know I was wrong. But Amelia, we can fix this. We can go to counseling. We can. You think I want you back? Amelia's laugh was soft, incredulous. Marcus, I don't even recognize the man I married anymore. Maybe I never really knew him. That's not fair. We had good years. We had years where I sacrificed everything while you took everything for granted. She set her champagne glass on the terrace railing. Do you know what the worst part is? It's not even the cheating. It's that you made me feel like I was the problem. Like I wasn't enough. Like I deserved to be betrayed. I never said you didn't have to say it. You showed me every day. Her eyes met his, clear and unflinching. But you were wrong, Marcus. I wasn't the problem. You were. He felt something inside him crack. What do you want from me, Amelia? You've already destroyed my relationship with Vanessa. You've frozen me out financially. I haven't done anything you didn't deserve. Is this about revenge? Is that what this is? No. She picked up her glass. This is about consequences. You wanted a new life? You have one. You just don't get to have it on my dime, with my money, in my house. Our house was purchased primarily with my inheritance. I have the receipts, Marcus. I have everything. She smiled. You should have paid more attention to who was actually managing our finances. Marcus felt the ground shift beneath him. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the fact that I know everything. The inflated appraisals. The falsified loan applications. The investor money you borrowed from to fund your lifestyle with Vanessa. His face went white. You're blaming me. I'm stating facts. Facts that I could report to the SEC. Facts that would end your career and possibly land you in prison. You wouldn't. Wouldn't I? Amelia's expression was serene. You gambled that I was too weak, too broken, too dependent on you to fight back. You lost that bet. Marcus grabbed her arm. Amelia, please, don't do this. We can work something out. I'll give you whatever you want in the divorce. She pulled her arm free. I don't need you to give me anything, Marcus. I'm taking what's rightfully mine. What does that mean? From inside the ballroom, there was a sudden commotion. Marcus turned to see Gerald Winters storming toward them, his face purple with rage. You son of a bitch, Gerald shouted at Marcus, ignoring the stares of other guests. The bank just called. They're pulling our funding. All of it. They found your fraudulent documents. We're done, Marcus. The company is finished. Marcus felt his world collapse. Gerald, wait, I can explain. Explain it to the federal investigators. I'm not going down with you. Gerald turned and walked away. Marcus looked at Amelia, realization dawning. You did this. You reported me. I reported illegal activity, yes. Amelia said calmly. But I also offered the bank a solution. What solution? I'm buying Heart Realty. Well, what's left of it after your mismanagement? I'll restructure, pay back the investors, and rebuild the company properly. Legally, Marcus couldn't breathe. You're taking my company? No, Marcus. Amelia's smile was cold. I'm taking back what I helped build, what I funded, what I supported while you were too busy chasing younger women to appreciate what you had. She started to walk away, then paused. Oh, and Marcus? Vanessa called me yesterday. He froze. What? She wanted to compare notes about you. It was illuminating. Did you know you told her the same lies you told me at the beginning? The same promises? Even took her to the same restaurants? Amelia shook her head. You're not just a cheater, Marcus. You're unoriginal. She walked back into the ballroom, leaving Marcus standing alone on the terrace, his life in ruins, finally understanding that the quiet, forgiving wife he'd betrayed was not the same woman seeking justice now. And the worst part? She wasn't even done yet. The ultimate payback. The final move. 3 months after the gala, Amelia sat in the corner office of Heart Realty, now renamed Hart Chen Ventures, with Richard Chen as her business partner. The company had been restructured, the investors repaid, and a new management team installed. Marcus had been forced to sell his shares for pennies on the dollar to avoid federal prosecution. Vanessa had moved to another state, her reputation in tatters. And Amelia? She was thriving, but there was one final piece of the puzzle she needed to put in place. She opened her laptop and pulled up the email she'd been drafting for weeks. An email to every investor, business partner, and society figure in their shared circle. The subject line read, "The truth about Marcus Hart." But before she could hit send, her phone rang. It was an unknown number. Hello? Ms. Hart, this is Detective Maria Santos with the Financial Crimes Division. We'd like to speak with you about your former husband's business practices. Amelia's pulse quickened. Of course, Detective. How can I help? We've received evidence of additional financial crimes beyond what was initially reported. Wire fraud. Tax evasion. We're building a case, but we need your cooperation as a witness. Amelia leaned back in her chair, a slow smile crossing her face. Detective, I'll tell you everything I know. Marcus's fall. 6 months later, Marcus Hart was convicted on multiple counts of fraud and sentenced to 4 years in federal prison. The day of his sentencing, Amelia didn't attend the courthouse. She didn't need to watch him fall. She'd already moved on. Instead, she stood in the gallery space she'd finally opened, the Vance Gallery, named after her late father, who'd always believed in her artistic dreams. The walls were filled with emerging artists' work, and the opening night crowd was buzzing with excitement. Richard Chen approached with 2 glasses of champagne. To new beginnings, he said, handing her one. To new beginnings, Amelia echoed, clinking her glass against his. As she looked around the gallery, her gallery, she realized something profound. The revenge wasn't in destroying Marcus, though justice had been served. The revenge was in becoming the woman she was always meant to be. The woman who didn't need a man to define her worth. The woman who turned her pain into power. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I'm sorry for everything. I know it's too late, but I need you to know you were always enough. I was the one who wasn't. Amelia read the message once, then deleted it without responding. Marcus had finally learned what she'd known all along. Some betrayals can't be forgiven, only survived, and some survivors come back stronger than anyone expected. She raised her glass to the painting on the wall, a phoenix rising from flames, painted by a young artist she'd mentored. To roses she whispered to herself, and to the retribution that makes us bloom. Epilogue, 1 year later. Amelia stood on the terrace of her downtown loft, watching the sunset paint the city in shades of gold and crimson. Hartchen Ventures had just closed its most profitable quarter. The Vance Gallery was featured in Art Monthly as one of the most exciting new spaces in the region, and she'd just finalized the purchase of a vacation home on the coast, a place entirely her own. Her phone rang. It was Sandra, her private investigator turned friend. "You need to see this," Sandra said without preamble. "See what?" "Check your email." Vanessa Crane just published a tell-all article online. "I was the other woman, confessions of an affair." She's trying to position herself as a victim, capitalize on the scandal. Amelia opened her laptop and skimmed the article. It was exactly what Sandra described. Vanessa painting herself as a naive young woman seduced by a manipulative older man, conveniently omitting her own cruel messages and deliberate pursuit of a married man. "She's rewriting history," Amelia murmured. "Are you going to respond?" Amelia considered this. A year ago, she would have been furious. She would have wanted to publicly expose Vanessa's lies, to fight back with the same venom. But now, she felt nothing but pity. "No," Amelia said finally. "Let her have her narrative. The people who matter know the truth. The rest? They're not my concern. You've really let it go," Sandra said, a note of admiration in her voice. "I've let them go," Amelia corrected. "There's a difference." After the call ended, Amelia closed her laptop and returned to the terrace. The city sparkled below her, full of possibility. She'd lost a husband and a marriage, but she'd gained herself. And in the end, that was the greatest revenge of all. Not just surviving, but flourishing without the people who tried to destroy her. Her phone buzzed one more time. A text from Richard. "Dinner tonight? There's a new Italian place I want to try. Heard it's better than Rossi's." Amelia smiled. Over the past year, Richard had become more than her business partner and attorney. He'd become a friend, a confidant, and recently someone who made her laugh again. Someone who saw her strength rather than her scars. She typed back, "Sounds perfect." "Pick me up at 7?" As she hit send, Amelia realized she was no longer the woman who'd trembled while reading a message about her husband's affair. She was no longer the woman who'd blamed herself for not being enough. She was Amelia Hart, entrepreneur, gallery owner, survivor, and architect of her own destiny. And her story? It was just beginning.